November 23, 1998. Altafonte, Sicily. A 12-year-old boy walked out of his school, completely unaware that three men in police uniforms were waiting for him. When they approached Giuseppe Di Matteo, he wasn't afraid. These were policemen, after all. They told him they had wonderful news. They were taking him to see his father. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. Giuseppe smiled. He hadn't seen his father, Santino Di Matteo, in months. Not since the arrest. Not since his father had made the decision that would destroy their family and shake the Sicilian Mafia to its foundation. "We're taking you to the mainland," one of the fake officers said gently. "Your father is waiting for you." The boy climbed into their car willingly, excited to see his father. What Giuseppe didn't know was that his father had committed the ultimate betrayal in the eyes of the Cosa Nostra. Santino Di Matteo had become a pentito, a government witness who had revealed the intricate details of the most spectacular assassination in modern mafia history. And now, the man who had ordered that assassination, Giovanni Brusca, a killer so ruthless his own associates called him the pig, had decided that if he couldn't silence the father, he would destroy the son. This would last 779 days. And when it ended, it would mark the beginning of the end of the Sicilian Mafia's reign of terror. May 23, 1992. The explosion that changed everything. To understand why Giuseppe Di Matteo died, you have to understand the man who killed him. And to understand Giovanni Brusca, you have to go back to the moment that defined his place in Mafia history. Judge Giovanni Falcone was driving from the airport toward Palermo. It was a Saturday evening when his armored car passed over a specific point on the Capone highway. Giovanni Brusca, watching from a hilltop nearly a mile away, pressed a button. 500 kilograms of TNT and Semtex exploded beneath the highway, creating a crater 15 feet deep. The blast registered on earthquake monitors across Sicily. Falcone's car was launched 30 feet into the air. The judge, his wife, and 3 bodyguards died instantly. This wasn't random violence. This was a declaration of war against the Italian state by the most powerful faction within the Sicilian Mafia. And Giovanni Brusca was their executioner. Born in 1957, Brusca had been raised in Mafia royalty. His father was a regional boss. His grandfather and great-grandfather had been made members. Violence was the family business. But Giovanni Brusca was different. He wasn't just violent, he was methodical. By the early 1990s, he had personally killed over 100 people. His associates called him Uveru, the pig, for the savage brutality of his methods. The Falcone assassination was his masterpiece. For years, the anti-mafia judge had been systematically dismantling the Cosa Nostra's power structure. His investigations had led to hundreds of convictions. The Mafia Commission decided he had to die, and they chose their most efficient killer. Brusca spent months planning the operation. He recruited tunnelers who could dig beneath the roadway, explosives experts who could pack half a ton of ordnance into concealed positions, and surveillance teams who could track the judge's movements. The explosion sent exactly the message the Mafia intended. We can kill anyone, anywhere, at any time. But every masterpiece has a weakness. And Brusca's weakness was that he trusted the wrong man to help execute it. June 4, 1993. The betrayal. Santino Di Matteo was a low-level soldier who had been recruited for the Falcone assassination because he was an expert with explosives. He had tunneled beneath the highway, packed the drums with explosives, and participated in surveillance. He knew every detail of how Italy's most famous anti-mafia judge had been murdered. For a year, Di Matteo kept silent. This was the code, omerta, the law of silence. You never cooperated with authorities. You accepted death before violating the sacred trust. But when Di Matteo was arrested in June 1993, something changed. Maybe it was the realization he was facing multiple life sentences. Maybe it was pressure from his wife. Maybe it was genuine remorse. Whatever the reason, Santino Di Matteo became the first of Falcone's assassins to cooperate with law enforcement. His testimony was devastating. Di Matteo revealed the entire conspiracy. He named the planners, the coordinators, the suppliers. Most damaging of all, he identified Giovanni Brusca as the man who had pressed the detonator. The pentito system, offering reduced sentences to mafia members who testified against former associates, had been Falcone's own innovation. In death, his strategy was working exactly as intended. But Brusca was not a man who accepted betrayal quietly. November 23, 1993. 779 days began. The three men who approached Giuseppe wore authentic police uniforms and carried proper identification. "Your father wants to see you," one explained to the 12-year-old. "He's being held for his own protection. We're authorized to take you to him." Giuseppe was excited. According to later testimony from Gaspar Spatuzza, one of the kidnappers who eventually became a government witness, Giuseppe climbed into their car without hesitation, chattering about seeing his father. They drove him to a safe house outside Palermo, where they revealed the truth. Giuseppe would not be seeing his father. He would be held until his father stopped cooperating with authorities. The boy's reaction was immediate and heartbreaking. He cried. He begged to call his mother. He promised that if they let him go, he would convince his father to stop talking to police. But Giovanni Brusca was interested in sending a message. This is what happens to the families of Pentiti. The kidnappers' initial goal was psychological pressure. They photographed Giuseppe looking frightened and sent these images to his father. The message was clear: stop cooperating or your son will suffer. But Santino Di Matteo refused to break. His testimony was too important. Prosecutors had convinced him that his cooperation could help convict dozens of high-ranking mafia leaders. Di Matteo made desperate trips to Sicily trying to negotiate his son's release. He offered money, offered to recant his testimony, offered to disappear. But Brusca's demands were non-negotiable: complete silence and public disavowal of everything he had told investigators. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. The father understood that accepting these terms would mean his own death. So Santino Di Matteo made the most agonizing decision any parent could face. He continued cooperating, knowing it might cost his son's life. As months passed, the treatment of Giuseppe deteriorated. According to testimony, the boy was beaten, starved, and psychologically tortured. He was told his father had abandoned him, that his mother didn't want him back. Photographs from this period show a child who aged years and months. Giuseppe's weight dropped dramatically. His eyes reflected a level of suffering no 12-year-old should experience. But still, Santino Di Matteo refused to break. January 11, 1996. The murder. By early 1996, Giovanni Brusca had reached a decision. The kidnapping had failed. Santino Di Matteo's testimony had already contributed to major convictions. There was no longer strategic value in keeping Giuseppe alive, but there was still symbolic value in killing him. On January 11, 1996, after 779 days in captivity, Giuseppe Di Matteo was strangled to death by Enzo Brusca, Giovanni's brother, Vincenzo Chiodo, and Salvatore Monticchiolo. The boy was 13 by then. He had spent more than a fifth of his life as a hostage. According to testimony from Gaspar Spatuzza, Giuseppe fought desperately for his life. But he was malnourished, weakened by more than 2 years of imprisonment. The three men overpowered him easily. After the strangulation, they placed Giuseppe's body in a steel drum and dissolved it in nitric acid. This method, known as Lupera Bianca, was designed to eliminate all physical evidence. No body, no crime scene, no forensic evidence. The acid completely destroyed Giuseppe's remains. When investigators later searched the location, they found no trace except fragments of clothing resistant to the chemical process. The message was clear: we can make people disappear so completely that they never existed. Giovanni Brusca had achieved the perfect crime. Except for one detail, it backfired catastrophically. The murder of Giuseppe Di Matteo sent shockwaves through Sicily that extended far beyond the criminal underworld. For decades, the Mafia had operated with public tolerance, even sympathy. Many Sicilians saw the Cosa Nostra as providing order where the Italian state was weak. But torturing and murdering a child crossed a line that even Mafia sympathizers couldn't rationalize. Maria Falcone, sister of the murdered judge, spoke for many. They have shown us who they really are. Not men of honor. Monsters who killed children to silence their fathers. Pope John Paul II called it an unspeakable act of evil that violates every principle of human dignity. But the most damaging reaction came from within the Mafia itself. several veteran bosses began questioning whether an organization capable of such brutality deserved their loyalty. Gaspar Spituzza would later testify, "When we killed the boy, something broke inside me. This wasn't honor. This was evil." The murder had failed to achieve its strategic objective. Santino Di Matteo had not recanted. If anything, his son's murder convinced him that the organization needed to be completely dismantled. And most crucially, Giovanni Brusca was now the most wanted criminal in Italy. May 20th, 1996. The end. Giovanni Brusca was watching television when Carabinieri Special Forces surrounded his farmhouse. Ironically, he was viewing a news report about the Falcone murder investigation when the assault began. He did not resist. When officers burst through the door, Brusca simply raised his hands. "You got me." The arrest was broadcast live. As police led him away, crowds of Palermo residents cheered. Some officers removed their ski masks, symbolic of no longer fearing Mafia retaliation. One officer, overcome with emotion, slipped past security and punched Brusca in the face as cameras rolled. Many Italians understood the rage. This was the man who had tortured and murdered a child. In custody, Brusca's appearance shocked investigators. He was overweight, bearded, unkempt. He looked like what he was, a predator who had forgotten basic human dignity. When asked about Giuseppe's murder, his response was chilling. The boy was the son of a pentito. "What did you expect us to do?" In February 1997, during pretrial proceedings, Santino Di Matteo and Giovanni Brusca came face to face in a Palermo courthouse. The meeting wasn't planned. Di Matteo was returning from testimony when he saw his son's killer. His reaction was instantaneous and volcanic. "You animal!" he screamed, lunging toward Brusca. "You killed my boy." Guards restrained Di Matteo, but his words echoed through the corridors. "I guarantee my collaboration, but to this animal I guarantee nothing. If you leave me alone with him for 2 minutes, I'll cut his head off." Brusca's response was calculated. "I ask forgiveness from your family." But the apology wasn't remorse. It was strategy. Brusca had decided to become a pentito himself, trading information for a reduced sentence. The irony was devastating. The man who had murdered Giuseppe Di Matteo to punish his father's cooperation was now cooperating himself. In 1999, Giovanni Brusca was sentenced to 30 years for Giuseppe's murder. His cooperation had reduced what should have been life imprisonment. On May 31st, 2022, after serving 25 years, Giovanni Brusca was released on parole. The decision sparked nationwide outrage. Politicians condemned the release. Victims' families called it a betrayal. But Giuseppe Di Matteo's legacy extends beyond punishment of his killers. His mother, Franca Castellese, spoke at a memorial garden dedication. "We have won. Giuseppe won. Because thanks to him, the Mafia has been exterminated, if not completely, at least 70%. She wasn't exaggerating. Giuseppe's murder marked a turning point. The revulsion it sparked fundamentally changed how Sicilians viewed the Cosa Nostra. In 2017, Italian authorities declared the Sicilian Mafia was no longer an emergency. For the first time in over a century, organized crime was a manageable law enforcement problem rather than existential threat. In 2018, a Sicilian court awarded Giuseppe's family €2.2 million, the largest Mafia victim compensation in Italian history. Most meaningfully, in 2017 directors created Sicilian Ghost Story, transforming the boy's tragedy into a haunting meditation on love and resistance. Giuseppe Di Matteo never chose to fight the Mafia. He was 12 when they took him, 13 when they killed him. He never had the opportunity to become a hero. But his death accomplished what decades of law enforcement had failed to achieve. It revealed the true face of organized crime in a way that even sympathizers couldn't ignore. The men who called themselves men of honor had tortured and murdered a child. The organization claiming to protect traditional family values had dissolved a boy's body in acid. Giovanni Brusca eventually understood this. In prison interviews, he admitted, "I am a monster. I know there is no forgiveness for what I did to that boy." But understanding came too late. The Sicilian Mafia never recovered from the moral catastrophe of Giuseppe's murder. It broke something fundamental in their relationship with communities that had tolerated their existence. In trying to silence one witness by terrorizing his son, they created 1,000 more witnesses. In demonstrating power through ultimate brutality, they revealed ultimate weakness. They were criminals, not protectors. A 13-year-old boy who never lived to see justice achieved what no prosecutor had managed. He showed the world exactly who the Mafia really was. Today, when you visit Altofonte, you'll find a memorial commemorating Giuseppe Di Matteo. The inscription reads, "To Giuseppe, who reminded us that innocence is sacred and that some lines should never be crossed." Giovanni Brusca is free now, living under protection, anonymous and irrelevant. But the child he murdered is commemorated in schools, memorials, and films across Italy. Giuseppe got the last word. His silence was louder than any testimony. This is what they do to children. This is who they really are. And this is why they must never win. The Mafia touched a made man's son. And in doing so, they destroyed themselves.